4 years, 7 months, and 24 days. This is the time it took for me to get my Canadian PR visa. Sounds crazy, right? Of course, it is a crazy journey. Hey guys, my name is Ajay. I am the founder of Maple Assistance. In today's video, I'm going to talk about my Canadian PR journey, how it started, why it took so long, what happened in between, and finally how I managed to receive my Canadian PR visa without paying any money to the consultancy. This video might be a bit longer, but I definitely encourage every one of you to watch the video fully because there is definitely something that you can take away from my experience. So without any further ado, let's jump into today's video. So before we start off with my Canadian PR journey, I would like to give a brief background about myself. So I'm basically an engineer. I graduated in the year 2010. And soon after my engineering degree, I started my very own training company because I was really passionate about when it came to training people. So this happened in 2010 and we were working with schools, colleges and corporate companies. We were doing a lot of training programs going to their place. So this went on for the next 6 years till 2016. And in 2016, we shifted to an in-house training program model. So where we hired a big office space and we made a lot of classrooms. And instead of going to the institution and doing the training, we started bringing in people from institutions to our office space for the training purpose. So this is the time when I actually introduced IELTS. So when I introduced IELTS, a lot of people came to me for the IELTS training. So they came for two purposes. Number one, students came for higher studies, and that was the working professionals who came for Australia and Canada PR. So back then in 2016, I had no clue about what PR was all about, right? So it was my clients who told about, they are the ones who actually introduced me to Canadian PR visa for the first time. So things were going good, 2016 and 2017, early 2017, what happened was my clients, who were getting trained on IELTS, they came to me and they asked me, Ajay, can you please suggest a good consultancy? So they wanted to get the Canadian PR visa and they wanted me to suggest a good consultancy in the town. So I had no idea about the consultancies, I had no idea about the PR, but I never told them a no, right? So what I did was I asked them for 2 days time and I did the same thing that every one of us would do. I Googled who's the best consultancy in the town. And after doing a small research, I understood that, there were two companies. Out of that, I chose one because they had a very professional website and they had branches across the country and they were doing it for a lot of countries. So I basically felt that, they must be really good. So I called up my clients, I told them that this is the best consultancy. So that's when they decided, okay, since I told them it's a good consultancy, they went ahead and they made the payment with the consultancy and they started the process. There was silence, I didn't hear from them for a while. After a few days, they came to my office and they shared their experience with that particular consultancy. In fact, they've had a very bad experience with that consultancy. They've literally lost a huge sum. And that made me actually think. I felt really responsible. I felt really guilty because the sole reason why they went to the consultancy was because I pointed them at that particular consultancy. Otherwise, they would not have done that. So then I decided, okay, if I have to suggest people to consultancy, I need to know them first. That's how I started walking into this Canadian PR visa consultancies in my place. So this was my first encounter or first experience with the Canadian PR immigration consultants. So my experience was not that great because every consultancy I moved, the first thing they asked me was to pay some money to check the eligibility. They wanted me to pay 1,500, 2,000, whatever, plus the GST. So I had literally went to all these consultancy, paid them the money, checked the eligibility, and no consultancy was interested in explaining the process. So when I asked them what is the process, how it's going to work out, they were all interested in, they were just telling me that you need to make the payment, you're eligible, make the payment, we'll take care of all those things later. Nothing was concrete. So that's the time when when I actually, 2016 was the year when I actually got married. My wife's close cousin is actually a Canadian PR holder. He's there in Canada. He never came to our marriage. One day my wife was actually having a call with him on WhatsApp and she actually introduced me to her cousin. And that's the time I got in touch with him. I was really curious how he got his Canadian PR visa. He was asking me about what I used to do and stuff. I told him that I'm into this training space. I help people with IELTS. So he was also interested, and I asked him, hey, how did you get your Canadian PR visa? Can you name a good consultancy in town? And then he shared his experience about his own experience with a consultancy, and he also had a very bad experience, it seems. And in fact, it was one of his friend who was already there in Canada who helped him complete the process successfully. So what he told was, he told that he'll share the contact of his friend. So he wanted me to get in touch with him, and I said fine. And then it happened. We got connected, and the whole dynamics actually changed. So his friend told me how these consultancies, play around with people's money and how they try to, scheme and scam people and stuff. So that was an eye-opener for me. During this point in time, 2017, so I started doing a lot of research when it came to Canada. I was already visiting a lot of consultancies. All these things, literally subconsciously, I started developing an interest towards moving to Canada. So then I decided, I believe it was in the late 2017, last quarter of 2017, I decided, okay, I'm also going to try to get a Canadian PR visa. There were a lot of positive things. So they were talking about the healthcare system in Canada, the education in Canada, which is free for the kids and stuff. So I was, fascinated about this country. I started watching a lot of videos on YouTube about the country, and I thought maybe I should also give it a chance. So 2017 November, I decided, okay, I'm going to try this process all by myself, because this person who's there in Canada, he helped me with a lot of PDFs and links, and he explained me a lot of process. So I thought I'm going to do it all by myself without help of any consultancies. That's how it all started. November 2017, I took the first step towards my Canadian PR visa. So that's officially when my Canadian PR journey started. November 2017, if I'm not wrong, it is 17th of November 2017. So I gave my IELTS, and IELTS was not that difficult for me because I was already into this training space. So I gave my IELTS. I scored a really good band. I cracked CLB 9, CLB 10. That was the combination score that I got. And I thought, okay, so things are going to go smooth, because I thought I had enough points. And by that time, I also completed my ECA process. I completed my WES. Not just for me, also for my wife. We, as a family, we wanted to move, so we got it done. And then once it was done, what happened was I went ahead and I created a profile probably in the first week of January 2018. So first week of January 2018, I created a profile. If I am not wrong, I entered the pool with the 435 score. I believe 435, 430s is what I actually had. Sierra score is what I actually had. And I thought I'm going to receive an invitation and I would be traveling to Canada within a year. Okay, but God had different plans. So what happened was, during that point in time, the Sierra score started going higher and higher. Okay, so I was always falling short by 5 to 8 points, 5 to 10 points, and then later I literally wait for a PNP. That never happened. I waited for the Sierra score to drop down. Again, that also didn't happen. So that is the time I understood that, okay, if I have to practically get a Canadian PR visa, the scores are not going to come down. So I need to increase my scores. So one way to increase the score is to do a second degree. I never had a second degree. I only have a bachelor's degree with me. So I went ahead and I signed up with a university in my place. It's called Annamalai University. I signed up with Annamalai University and I started doing this 1-year PG diploma program. So 2018, fag end, I enrolled. Luckily, I had an admission for June 2018, so I was enrolled into that thing. And it used to get over by 2019 mid-June. So I had to wait. So I was waiting there in the pool, and my profile expired the very next year, January 2019, my profile expired. I never renewed my profile because I know that it's of no use. So then what I did was I waited till the examinations came. So finally the exams had come and I gave my exams, and it was election year if I'm not wrong. And the exams were also postponed. So it was literally testing my patience. So started off in 2017, gave my first IELTS attempt, then had to wait till 2019 mid to receive my second degree. So finally I received my second degree, and now I need to do an ECA. ECA process was not that easy because I had to go to the university to get the transcripts, and I didn't have the degree. I only had my provisional degree. So I had to process with a provisional degree, so had to wait, and it took another 3-4 months, and West had to confirm whether this degree is legit or not. So once I send it for ECA, West actually sent it back to the university to confirm whether it's a legit degree. So all these transactions took a lot of time, 4-5 months time, and finally everything got together. And then what happened was in 2020, the moment I decided to enter the pool, that is when my IELTS score expired. So this time my wife was also conceived and she was expecting our second baby, and I really didn't have time to go and give my IELTS. So somehow my wife, she managed some time and she gave her IELTS probably I believe in the early 2020, and I gave my IELTS later the year, like in the first quarter, meaning March of 2020. I retook my IELTS. I gave my IELTS once again, and this time again I was thankfully, by grace of God, I was able to crack the same CLB 9, CLB 10. I cracked CLB 9 in 3 modules, and CLB 10 in 3 modules, and CLB 9 in 1. So I had a very good score, and now my score it went up to 471. Okay, so this was I thought, okay, finally everything is now done. So I thought, okay, at least this year I'm going to get my Canadian PR visa. And we all know what happened in March 2020. The pandemic hit, right? And I was not aware of what this pandemic was. It was very new to me. Initially it was exciting because we weren't working for 15 days. It was all cool, it was more like taking a break from the regular routine and stuff. But later, when it started affecting the draws, that is when it really got into my head. Okay, so I was really anxious, I was really nervous because the draws were not happening on a regular basis. Instead of an all program draw, they started doing only PNP based draw, CEC based draw, and the all program draws were not happening. So all these things were there. So I was a bit anxious. So then what happened was, one big problem that I had was, in the month of November, I'm going to lose another 5 points for my age. So if at all something had to happen, it had to happen before November 1st. That's my birthday. So before November 1st, something really has to happen. And I was thinking, I was doing all the calculations, if everything had to go well, then probably I thought like before November, I was pretty confident of getting my invitation. So what happened was, October, there were actually 3 draws, if I'm right. The first draw of October was on October 1, 2020, October 14, 2020, and October 28. There were supposed to be 3 draws that particular year. So October 1, 2020 draw happened, and the cutoff score was 471. And the moment I was really waiting for the draw to happen, and I was just refreshing my web page again and again. And then when the draw happened, when I saw the score 471, my eyes literally lit up. I was so excited, then I was going to my profile portal to see whether I received an invitation. And that is when I understood that I didn't receive an invitation because of the tiebreaker rule. Okay, so who would have thought the tiebreaker rule would come into your picture and it would affect your invitation chances? So I never expected it, but I was literally dejected because I was really waiting for this invitation, and the time was also running out. I just had another couple of draws, otherwise then I'm going to lose another 5 points, which is going to make things way more difficult for me. So then October 1st didn't really happen. So then finally they had another draw on October 14, 2020, and on that particular draw again the score was 471. This time I qualified under the tiebreaker rule and I finally received an invitation. So the journey that started on November 7, 2017, so I was able to receive an invitation only on October 2020. So literally I had to do an extra degree, I had to retake IELTS twice, I had to repeat my ECA process to get my invitation. So finally an invitation happened, and then came another problem. I was given 90 days. During the pandemic, they actually gave me 90 days time to complete my documentation process. The problem with documentation is I'm a professional, I'm a director of a private limited company. So how do I show my experience? That's a big question. So literally I have to gather a lot of documents. So ideally what would have been 1 or 2 documents for a person. It took 17 documents for me to prove my work experience. So I had to literally collect a lot of documents to showcase my professional work experience, and I finally managed to submit my profile, express entry profile, on January 5th, 2021. So that's the time, that's my AOR, January 5, 2021. And then by the time, COVID's first wave was all settling down and stuff. So we were thinking, okay, things are going to get back to normal. So ideally the processing time used to be like 6 months. So January, meaning I thought like maybe at least in another 6-8 months, that is August of 2021, I would be getting my PR and I might think of leaving the country by end of 2021. So that was the plan. And again, God had different plans. So COVID, the second wave came, IRCC was, government was not functioning. Canada was also not functioning. Borders were closed, and what all things happened, right? So literally for the next 18 months, it was complete silence from IRCC. The one thing that was really painful was they never communicated. They never communicated with we people who have received an invitation and the documentation part was done. They never told what the timeline is going to be. We never heard anything from them officially. So I was particularly not sure whether to go on with my life here in India or to wait for a Canadian PR visa. There was also talks that Canada is going to scrap away all the invitations, all the documents, and they're going to start new after COVID. So all these things were news and the rumors were going around, and literally it was very confusing. So you literally can't take a decision here. So I had to put my kid to school, and there were a lot of investment opportunities. What to do with the money? My money was stuck as proof of funds. All these things were happening, and I had no clue. But then finally, I'm a firm believer in God. So I thought like, okay, God, I'm going to give it in your hands. So whatever is the best time that you think for me to receive a PR, let it be. So 2021 second half, like I was chilling. I never worried about, I stopped thinking about the Canadian PR visa and stuff. And it was just going on. My life was going on. And I didn't even actually check the updates and stuff. So I never went into my portal at all. So didn't check it at all. So kind of, started losing interest, I should say, in a sense. So then what happened was years went, and 2022 also happened, and the first 6 months went, nothing really happened. And finally, actually I was doing a live session. And during that point in time, I received a PPR request. Okay, so before that, I received a medical request 1 month back. I think it was in the month of May. So that was a small indication that, okay, something was happening. And I went ahead and I did my medicals once again. And the very next month, after a good 35-40 days, I received a PPR. So I received the PPR on June 23rd, 2022. And then, the formalities. So after receiving the PPR, I had to send it for passport. After the passport request came, I had to send my passports. So my passports were sent in another 4 days time, and I finally got my Canadian PR visa on July 11, 2022. So the journey that started in November 2017, it finally came to an end on July 11, 2022. It was indeed a very long journey. It literally tested my patience. Oftentimes I was discouraged, and many a times I felt it was not going to work out, So all these things, all these thoughts were going on. I had to spend a lot of money on this because I had to do Westwise. I had to literally, like me and my wife, so we had to invest a lot on IELTS as well, 4 times. And again, the charges and the proof of funds, everything was all stuck. All these things were there. But finally, this thing happened and we received our PR on July 11, 2022. Now, I would like to talk to you about the challenges that I actually faced during my Canadian PR journey. The first and foremost challenge that I faced was, lack of knowledge, or was not able to rely on consultancies. This is a major problem to a lot of people, and in fact, that's the reason why I started Maple Assistance at the first place. So it all started with my PR journey. When I wanted to get a Canadian PR visa, the consultancies were charging a bomb. They were literally charging in lakhs, and I didn't have that money. And number two, even if I had the money, if I should pay them, the problem was I was not convinced with the way they spoke. They were not really giving a clarity on the process. All these things were not happening. So I felt that consultancies were not worth it. If I had to imagine an immigration lawyer, they were charging like crazy amount. So it was very difficult. So this was my first challenge, when it came to my Canadian PR journey, knowing the process, understanding the process and doing it all by myself. This was the first challenge that I actually faced. The second challenge that I faced was not having a second degree. So the CRS system is designed in such a way that, even though you score a CLB 9, CLB 10, if you don't have a second degree, your scores are not going to take off. So literally for a person like me, if I have to increase my CRS score, I cannot do it with just a bachelor's degree. So I have to do an additional degree in order to increase my CRS score. So this was another challenge because I literally had to, take a break from this process, go back, do a 1-year diploma program, and then again come back and create a profile. So that took me 1 extra year. So that was another challenge that I actually faced. The third challenge that I faced was the age factor. The express entry process is designed in such a way that the moment you turn 30, you start losing 5 points for your age. So this was a very big challenge for me. As I told you in my story, if it was not for October 14th, I would never have received an invitation till date, because October 14th, if I have not received an invitation, by November 1st, I would have lost another 5 points for my age. So from 471, it would have actually come down to 466. And 466 never happened till now. Alright, so 2 years, 466 never happened. So if I have not received my invitation on that particular day, I would have not received an invitation till date. So that's a very big challenge, not just for me, for all the Canadian PR aspirants. Age factors play a very big role. The fourth challenge that I actually faced was showing my work experience. I have a private limited company and I'm the director of this private limited company. So unlike other people who are working in a company, it's very easy for them to get a reference letter from the employer, or if the employer is not giving, then you can actually get a refusal of reference letter and you can attach that as a proof. But here, if I have to get a reference letter, it wouldn't really make sense, because I can create a reference letter, I can sign it up and I can show it, right? So it's not going to make sense. So to prove my work experience, I had to collect a lot of other documents that, I was actually working and I have this company up and running. So literally I had to, share close to about 17 documents if I'm not wrong. So my company's registration, my memorandum of articles, my bank accounts, current accounts, and all these things, okay? So I literally had to share a lot of documents to prove that I was actually working. So this was a very big challenge for me, collecting all these data in a span of 9 months. It was very tough for me to organize all these things, especially during the pandemic, and present it to IRCC. The fifth challenge that I faced was the pandemic itself, right? So nobody expected the pandemic. It came out of the blue and it literally shook our lives for a good 1.5 to 2 years, and even now the impact is still there, right? So when it came to my particular profile, so I literally had to wait for a good extent. My wait time had increased by a good 1.6 years simply because of the pandemic. So pandemic was another challenge. Things were not moving. I was not able to go do the process. Even if I have to book up medicals, it was very tough during the pandemic. So getting the dates and traveling and other things, all these things were really difficult, and pandemic made it even more worse. And the last challenge which I faced is literally IRCC's silence. IRCC remained silent throughout the pandemic. They never gave any official statement. The minister was not giving us updates. We really didn't know what to do next, because IRCC was silent. So whether we should go ahead with our lives here in India or should we wait, and all these things were going on. And not just that, added to IRCC's silence, it was the peer pressure. It was your family, it was your friends, it was your colleagues and stuff. People started asking you, they all know that I have started my process. They all know that my documentation part is done. And when everyone kept asking me when are you leaving and when you're going to go to Canada, so it's something that I created in a sense. It's true, but again, that's also a kind of pressure. But I didn't take it seriously. But it was indeed a bit of pressure, right? So these were some of the challenges that I personally faced during this 4.5 years of my Canadian PR journey. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. That was my Canadian PR journey. It was a fantastic ride, but let me tell you one thing, it was definitely worth the wait. Even though it took 4 years, 7 months, it was definitely worth the wait. And I was really excited when I saw the passport, stamped with the e confirmation of PR. When I had the stamp, it was literally, it was heart warming, and like my family was happy. Things were it was a dream come true moment for me, right? So I really wish that every one of you watching this video also get your Canadian PR visa. And now that being said, you might be seeing a lot of changes coming into this Canadian immigration space. The draws are happening, but the number of invitations are very low, and CRS score is really high. C19 bill is speculated to happen anytime in the first quarter of 2023. So there are a lot of things that are going on. So now what should you do if you are looking to get your Canadian PR visa? See, frankly, my dear friends, we are living in uncertain time, okay? And the C19 bill has made it even more uncertain, right? So at least before C19, we know that, if you're having a 490 score or a 500 score, you will be getting an invitation. But now, when C19 is, anywhere around the corner, you never know. Someone with a 380 score might get an invitation, and someone with a 500 may not get an invitation because the category is not there, right? So it's going to be, I think that, C19 is going to be really exciting because it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for people who had this problem with age, especially the age, right? So I personally know many of my clients, who are 33 years old, 32, 34, having a rich experience, very good experience, very good background, but unfortunately they lose points because of this particular factor, the age factor, and because of that their CRS score is around 450s and 460s, and they are not able to get to that level, right? So now after C19, all these IT professionals and all the high demand, in-demand skill people who are there in the pool, but unfortunately because of the age factor who have lost points, you get to stand a chance once the C19 is implemented. So you never know, a category might be formed and you might be picked in the category. So what is the thing that you need to do right now if you are aspiring to get a Canadian PR visa? Simple. Number one, take your IELTS, score the best in IELTS, all right? And number two, complete your ECA. And number three, create an express entry profile and be there in the express entry pool. Now is the best time to be there in the express entry pool because nobody knows who's going to get an invitation. You might be thinking, I just have a 350 score, Ajay, and you never know, because your skill is in demand, because you are having that experience, you never know, a 350 might receive an invitation as well. So C19 is going to be really exciting. So we'll have to wait and see how it's going to pan out and what the categories are going to be, how they're going to, the spread, how they're going to balance the C19 draws and also the regular express entry draws. All these things we don't know, but these three things are in our control. Doing the IELTS, completing the ECA, and being there in the express entry pool with the best possible score is definitely in your control. So I encourage every one of you to go ahead and do that. All right, so that's pretty much it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you liked this video. If you did like this video, share your thoughts on the comment section, give it a thumbs up, and share this with your friends. And if there is something that you learned from my experience, if it was helpful to you, go ahead and share it with your friends as well. All right, so thank you so much, guys. It was nice to share my personal experience with you all, and I'll be back with another video very soon. Until then, it is Ajay signing off. Take care. Bye bye.